have a couple of people who are joining today.
Cool.
From Meet the Biz, and they'll come on for a little while. They'll ask some questions, and they might go back, or we'll see. But
hopefully we'll all get talking.
We'll all get talking. We'll just see where the river takes us. So,
right.
They're very excited to be here. Let me tell you, because they're huge fans. We have Felicia Patty here, one of the stars from Away. And then we also have Tina and Cindy Green. And
hello.
And Tina was also on a show as well. So everyone, Max Gail.
Hi. Let me scroll to a screen where I can see you all. Okay. Hello. Whoops.
There goes the phone.
That's usually me that does that.
It happens. It happens.
So Felicia and
hi.
Hi, and Tina and Sydney, was it?
Cindy. Hi.
Okay. Hi. All right. Very cool.
Well, I know they're all huge fans of General Hospital. So when I said Max Gail's coming on, they went, "Oh my God, I've got to be here!"
Yeah, it's amazing a world, that I didn't really know much about, but the people that are into those shows are really into them and care about them, and so
what
cool.
I know the one main thing that keeps on going into my head about soap operas is, what is it, 90 pages a day?
Not really. I mean, maybe there was a time when they would kind of shoot a lot of pages, although I also get told in the old days they had more time to work on things, and I think there were times where there were maybe a smaller number, or some actors would have a lot of pages to learn, and the people who got good at it, it's kind of like you get a little bit of time to rehearse, which is pretty much to get the idea where the director wants you to be, so that she or he can get the shots they need to get.
Right.
It might not necessarily be connected. The script might be, you're talking really in close with somebody about something like that, but the director wants you to start way over here and move in, so he can get that shot and establish the room and all of that. And so you work through those things as best you can, and then you go get makeup and wardrobe, and then you come up and you show it to the camera people, and then you do it. And if nobody falls through a window or something, that's pretty much it. They're moving on to the next. And so it's a little bit like live, and there's a lot of trust and relationship involved, and I was working with people that have been doing the show for a long time. And so there is that, but it also is telling a story, kind of unfolding story,
right?
A day at a time. And for the story arc that I had, which is somebody that solved his gambling problems and got into a 12-step program, and has some kind of handle on why he would keep making bad decisions, and wasn't making them bad anymore, and he was in a relationship, but he was losing his memory and in denial about it, and somehow because of that he ends up back with his son, who he hadn't seen for, another actor played the part and had retired 7 years before. So this was a whole idea of reintroducing this relationship, that it comes out that he's got Alzheimer's, and then following through all of that denial and fear and the health things that happen, and it's something that there were a lot of not just cast but on the crew. Jimmy, the sound guy, said, "Man, this is it's just like my grandpa, who died last year, but I grew up with so many people and touched a lot of lives." So it was a wonderful experience.
Oh,
right.
It sounds amazing. And of course it had so many fans. I mean, Cindy, you've been watching General Hospital for years?
For almost 50 years. And you were one of my favorite storylines. So I do miss you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. So you started watching like when you were 5 or something, right?
13. So
okay.
getting up there to almost 50 years. So
it's amazing how, for me, there are things that 50 years ago, wasn't that just before I just sort of stopped for a minute to have kids and stuff like that. And then I was going to get right back to that.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So Tina, do you watch General Hospital too, or?
Yeah. Yeah. One of her dreams is to someday get a part on General Hospitals. So.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Actually, I do.
You're in there
I
too,
want to be
huh?
on General Hospital. That's my favorite show.
Uh-huh. Do you do any acting?
I do, yeah. I was in Away on Netflix with Hilary Swank
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and Josh Charles.
Uh-huh.
And I was in a show on Amazon Prime called Love You More.
Uh-huh. So you've already sort of stepped through that door in a way. You
Yeah.
know, the fellow that's cast General Hospital, and I'm embarrassed to say I can't come up with his name right now because I know it well. And he's a wonderful guy. And so, it would be good for you to just send him a letter and a picture or something, just to get on his radar screen. You could tell him
I love General Hospital. It's like my favorite all-time favorite. My favorite part was on General Hospital was you and Maurice. How touching was that?
Yeah, he's wonderful, isn't he? Yeah, we had a great connection.
You guys made me like cry. It was like oh my God, it's so beautiful.
A lot of it, is just really so much about being present. It's interesting because you're here and you've already, kind of got some going on like that. And I see with Tina, it's like, maybe hasn't, done that much. I don't know, I could be wrong, but at the same time, I can see how present both of you are. I can see how present you are, Tina, and so I would, encourage you. People always, when they ask me, for advice, the first thing I say is, if while you're, studying it or following it or whatever, if it's all about growing as a person and learning about life and sharing it and living it in a good way, then it'll, whatever you do, however it works out, it'll be a benefit.
You guys are
and if you do it because you think that the fame or the money or the something, something like all of that, it will never be enough.
Did you ever have that conflict within yourself? Did you ever go, fame, no, art? That tug of war that some people.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have, and it's influenced a lot of my decisions. Some of them have been wrong. Mm-hmm. Some of them have been a time where I looked at something and I said, oh, that's just like that's just kind of like they're playing off of somebody's idea of Wojo. See, I always felt Wojo was smarter than he was given credit for, and he just didn't have the same hip way of thinking, but often he would be the one that would figure out what the problem was, or and and sometimes I think I turned away, or I didn't agree to read for, or it's not like I got direct offers.
Right.
We want you to do this television series and we will pay, it's not like that was happening. But so I think that remembering, getting in touch with where the heart impulse is. And that happened with me for General Hospital. I'd been trying to get active again, and I was reading for a lot of comedy. I was kind of getting invited back, or you could see that, but I couldn't quite figure out how to play a guy who dealt with his insecurities with a lot of bravado.
Right.
I don't mind connecting to insecurities. It's kind of what it's all about, really. But with the bravado part, I don't pull it off like some people do. Anyway, for some reason, some things that, and none of them actually ended up being on the air or not on the air for long anyway. But then I got this call for General Hospital, and I kind of thought, does it come to this? Because there's this hierarchy that, we have film and TV.
Film, TV. But
all
that's changed throughout the years.
It's changing all over the place, and it's all just part of the things that make us, typecast ourselves or other people around us, or, take an attitude without really remembering what's at the heart, what makes us happy, what makes us feel
What-
alive,
What is the thing in life that keeps you centered?
well, better centered than I would be otherwise. I think, for a big part of it is, well, I was always able to write a rhyme pretty easily to say something to my parents, like at Christmas time. And I was sometimes surprised at the reaction people would have. But also, anyway, there was a time where I started processing the things that I had been working on, my own growth and spiritual growth and emotional and all that stuff that life is about, and in a way, I think of them as my breadcrumbs in the cosmic forest. If you remember Hansel and Gretel, they went into the forest, but they left a trail of breadcrumbs so they could find their way home. And the birds had eaten them, So in a way, sometimes the process of a song starting to come to me and then trying to work with, well, what does it want to say here? And the form being not like, oh, there's a word that rhymes, that's the next line, more a way of allowing more to come up. And sometimes it would just start rolling through, and sometimes it would take a while, but they're kind of like when you go fishing and you get worms, if you got half a worm, you can't pull it out of the ground, it'll just break. You got to kind of leave a warm hand for it to crawl into, so it's kind of like that in a way. And that part of the creativity. And so those help me, stay connected, and music brings you into the moment. So when I get a chance to play music, I do. I'm not a good musician. I have a lot of friends who are really good players,
Now you
but
play and you sing.
I play and I do sing, If people say, can you sing? I say, well, that's a matter of opinion. But I do anyway, and they had a thing, and the girls, I'm sure, know about it, but on General Hospital, they've had an ongoing thing every year, the Nurses Ball.
Oh,
It started back when General Hospital, the soaps were the first to do, interracial relationships and stuff. They were the first to deal with AIDS. They created the Nurses Ball, It gave a chance for the wardrobe people to break out a little bit, and everybody, and those in the cast who could sing or whatever, So it came around to Frank. I actually asked Frank, is this interesting to you guys?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I love everything about it. I watch it every single day.
Okay, so Frank is the guy who kind of runs everything, right? I said,
Right?
what are you doing about? I'm wondering about music, because we know that music, a lot of people have Alzheimer's. They can remember lyrics, or they get, there's something about music that we connect to when other parts are going dark. And he said, why do you sing? I said, well, what I said before, I said, I do, because I write my own songs and stuff. Oh, you want to do one of your songs? Well, I don't know what, if it would be, if that would be something. I'm actually trying to find out what you're doing, but they already had some kind of idea about the Nurses Ball. And he said, I think he would think something about like maybe Sinatra or something. I could see Mike Sinatra, maybe, anyway, that was, and, but, he said, well, that would cost something. I said, but I've got a song, because this is true. I had a song I had written, and early on with Barney Miller, they had all of the cast on the Dinah Shore show. Cindy, you probably remember the Dinah Shore show, but not these. And then it was like The View. It was like what everybody watched in the afternoon. And they had us all on and each do something. And I did a song and a poem. And I got a lot of letters on the poem. It was kind of about finding a new part of yourself. I got one on the song from a guy named Gordon Jenkins, who it turns out was kind of like well, he was a composer and arranger and conductor for Frank Sinatra and I'm sorry, I'm going
It's
going
okay.
blank here, but you know, somewhere over the rainbow, you know. So anyway,
Harold
of
Arlen,
that era, yeah,
Judy
uh-huh.
Garland.
Judy Garland, you know. So anyway, he wrote me this letter and invited me to come over and you know, make a recording of it. And we did a bunch of others. A really gracious fellow, you know. And he said, I would love to send this to Mr. Sinatra. But he was this guy. He wrote, if you remember, you might, I don't know. Anyway, the last album he did with Sinatra had the song that became the hit off of it was "It Was a Very Good Year." When I was 17, it was a very good year, you know, and that long violin, that was all standard Gordon Jenkins. So anyway, and he said, I'd like to do that. His mother was just killed in a plane accident. So I can't do that right away, but I'd like to do that. Well, for me, I was kind of like, you know, at that point, Sinatra had become a big supporter of Richard Nixon, because Kennedy had stood him up in Palm Springs. You know, Kennedy was going to go visit his house and everything. And then his brother said, you can't do that. You know, you're in a relationship with this woman that's also in a relationship with the mob boss in Chicago. And, you know, you can't do that. So he landed at a golf course and went over to Bing Crosby's, and that really, you know, hurt and pissed off Frank Sinatra. So,
Yeah.
you know, and so during that time, I had also met Buffy St. Marie that I was talking with you about earlier. And so through that, I connected with things that were really, you know, that's where the music took me, to that spiritual understandings and a different understanding of how we can think about the resources we have. It's not about it's either communism or capitalism. You know, both of those are just kind of reactions to the Industrial Revolution, but there's a deeper, more profound ways of thinking about how we share and operate with each other and all of those things. And anyway, I told him that story, and they ended up not doing that song, but they ended up having Mike come up and do The Summer Wind, which was a you know, one of my favorite Frank Sinatra songs. It's kind of a mysterious song. The Summer Wind came. So, and I went to, I thought, no, now I've got to do a Frank Sinatra song. And I went to a friend of mine in Malibu, who's a song, you know, singer coach. And I said, you know, I help. And so she said, okay. And she got the music out and she played, let's hear what you got, you know. And I did my best. And she put her hands down and she said, okay, let's start at the very beginning. And she took me into breathing and exercises, and, you know, and gave me some stuff and it was the first time that I'd ever been like, well, I know I don't sing that good, but I'm going to sing anyway. Sort of judgmental, kind of more, you know, it was it was just the first time I thought, oh, this is something you can really study and learn to do. And I haven't done much more of that since, in a way, certainly not working with anybody, but just to understand singing in a way that didn't have this constant kind of edit feedback loop, you know.
Right.
That is also what you have to just let go, Tina and Felicia, you know, when you think about acting, you know, you're like a living, breathing character at that moment. You're doing it.
Yeah.
So I can, for somehow I look, you know, you're so animated, Felicia, and Tina, you're just holding quiet and stuff, but I feel your aliveness, and yeah, I see your smile starting. I'd like to see.
I just love the everything on John Hospital, because I've been watching it since I was little.
Alicia, do you have a question to ask?
Oh yeah. How do you is Maurice Bernard is really a nice guy on set?
Yes, he's a wonderful guy. He's a really thoughtful, generous actor. He works, you know, really hard at it in terms of, you know, taking it in. He's been doing it a long, long time, you know, so he's got stuff, you know. But when I remember going in to read, and they had said this, you know, oh, we really want you to come in. I come in, I see that, well, there's 6 other actors that I know, and they could all do this, you know.
Mm.
So sometimes that happens. You start, the director in me starts casting them. Oh yeah, he would, you know. And I just said, you know, don't just, it's a really interesting scene to play, and go and have that experience. And I did, and I came in, and Mo was there. That was, you know, sometimes it's just 2 young people, one's on a camera and one's reading the lines to you, and there's no, you know.
Right.
And so I just, I had the first line, and I just looked him deep in the eyes, you know, for a long time, you know, and we were just present with each other from the get-go. And he's told the story that, you know, after I went, you know, the scene ended, and I said, thank you a lot. I said, thank you, you know, I hope I see you again, just to put my 2 cents in, you know. And they see that.
You miss
They-
working on set with Maurice, Laura, and Jocelyn.
It was a really nice run of, you know, being called in, and especially in the beginning and in the middle, when they were trying to figure out how to keep Mike alive in the story, and
Yeah.
getting involved with some of the mob stuff or getting married or something. They were kind of reaching around because they didn't expect it to go that long. And then as they found their way into how it would end, you know, it was just wonderful writing, and we were always, you know, able to be that way, alive together. And
I love how you said present. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so powerful
yeah,
to be in that.
that's mainly what I think people connect with, you know, is that in life, even, you know, that's why in life, and sometimes in the movies, if you see somebody's that like they're trying to cry, you know, you're like, okay, you're crying, you know. But, you know, whereas when the tears, when it come, you know, when it, as in life, where you know, so that kind of work has to come out of with the trust to be in the moment with each other.
Right.
And
Right.
so yeah.
Well, Tina,
And by the way,
oh,
what
yeah.
I just want to say, I'm sure you guys maybe don't know this, but when I first checked out Maurice, I saw, one of the things I saw about him on IMDb is he's bipolar.
Yeah.
And outspoken about it and stuff. And his character was written as bipolar, you know, that was written into the understanding of his character. And he has this incredible podcast called State of Mind, and other things he does, you know, appearances and stuff, but particularly with that, interviewing people and just what he's done to help people get past certain, you know, shames or confusions or whatever around mental health is really extraordinary.
I love how more and more these days Hollywood is starting to write in, like you said, they wrote in for his character, a part of him. So it seems more and more they're bringing people in that way.
Yeah.
I think so. And, you know, there's always this stuff about people, you know, do you cast people with disability, I mean, or somebody without a disability in a role with a disability? And some are sort of obvious, like a person confined to a wheelchair or something, you know. A whole lot of disabilities that aren't so apparent or obvious, you know. And I, you know, I've always supported that in the same way that I think it's important to cast Native American roles with Native Americans. But I've always thought even more important, why can't the actor who is in a wheelchair play the part of the doctor that's not written to be in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
He's just the doctor.
Right.
You know, why can't he be Native American? Why can't that lawyer be Native American? You know,
Or the president.
you know,
How
open it
about,
up.
how about Down syndrome?
Well, I feel the same way, although I feel that with Down syndrome, there are so many, I mean, acting is also about heart. Okay. And if there's, you know, if you want to make a generality about Down syndrome, you know, they used to say about Wojo, and they say sometimes about Polacks and stuff, they think with their heart. Well, that's, you know, pretty much a part of all of my experience with individuals with Down syndrome, you know. So I mean, I think that's a case where there is a pool of talented people. And so I think it's important to cast parts of people with Down syndrome. But I still think it's just as important to think this person has Down syndrome, but why can't they be the person in whatever whatever job that it is. You might say, well, it's a part of a brain surgeon. Well, maybe that would look for a, you want to look for at least one real instance in life of that happening or something, you know. But I think that both ways, we have to think about diversity both ways.
Yeah. Tina,
Yeah,
do you have a question?
yeah, I've got two questions.
But-
So the
but
first
go ahead.
one, so the first one is, how did you feel about winning 2 Emmys on General Hospital?
Okay, well, I felt pretty good about it. You know, you know, you have to submit. The middle year I didn't submit, but you know, and then thanks for the wonderful Nika, producer at General Hospital. She put the reel together, because I would start looking at scenes and I'd think about, oh, I should have, you know, something like that, you know. And so I'm sure she had a lot to do with that. It's great to be honored. The thing that I love about acting and all is that it's very collaborative, you know. I mean, you're there on your own, like in life, you know, you have to show up with you, but you are doing it with other people, and not just the other actors, but the writers and the camera people and the, you know, the makeup, wardrobe. In a way, you're all working on it together. So, but sure, it felt really good in both years. The second year they did a sort of a fake awards, because they you know, so they had us come in, they had it all sort of social distance and everything, and then they had us come in and do our speech, you know, and then they take you over, put you in a seat, say, now here's where the stage is off to your left here. Okay, now they're showing your clips. Okay, now they're announcing you won, you know, and you know, but that's sort of what you're doing anyway. When you're in a soap, you're playing one part in the soap, and then you're playing the part of the actor in the soap.
Right.
Out in the, you know, and then hopefully making real connections along the way. Because we're all sorry.
What is your proudest moment in life?
Oh, I don't know. Pride. That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. But you know, I've had a few times where people that I, you know, that I went way down the road with them with, let's say they're drinking. One was my twin sister, but a few other people who then you know, got straightened out, and in a time they came back and they said, you know, when you decided, you know, you weren't going to have any more of it, that's when I knew I had to find a way to turn around. So that gave me the most, I don't know, sense of like, okay, I'm okay, you know. Pride is, you know, another thing. What was your, I'm curious about your other question, Tina.
Oh, yes.
So my other question is, what do you think is your greatest accomplishment as an actor?
As an actor, probably General Hospital. I've been the most mature. You know, I look at the Barney Millers and I think, like, I could have put more at stake there. You know, and part of it, thinking about seeing what's at stake for the actor, you know, and there are times I got a lot of my sense of Vietnam vets making an adjustment without being in denial of what they knew. I got a lot of that because I didn't, you know, in those days, Vietnam, there was Rambo, and then there was the Vietnam vet who was the drug addict or whatever, you know, and there was certain things around Agent Orange, and I produced a documentary on Agent Orange. That's one of their co-produced, and, you know, but I got most of it as I began to spend more time with Native American people at the powwows and other ceremonies, but particularly any social gatherings, there would be some veterans bringing in the flag. And these were Indian people who had not been, you know, they were pretty much most likely saying, you go there first. You get, some had training and stuff and worked on planes and stuff, but and they had every reason to be bitter about the way their people had been treated. And this was a time when that was coming out. For a long time it was so mashed down. Their parents' generation, kind of only a few people raised their heads. So but they didn't. They had something in them that connected. A higher percentage of Native Americans go in the military than any other identifiable group. So there was something there that about just understanding that giving into rage or something was not a way. And it's not like they articulated it. Not like, and so a lot of that was how I went with how Wojo would be when certain things came up, and there would be certain things that as a vet, he knew people around him did not understand, but he wasn't looking to grind that axe. He was kind of looking for what he could learn. So,
I didn't ask Cindy. Cindy, do you have a question?
So yes, your role in General Hospital had to have been a difficult role, playing someone with Alzheimer's, and as you were talking about, a very emotional role. How would you recommend young actors and actresses prepare for roles that are difficult to play, like the role you played on General Hospital?
Okay, well, first of all, it's kind of like people who play tennis. They love to play with somebody who's just a little bit better than them. I mean, whatever we're doing, we love to be drawn into it where we're trying to do it with our all, rather than it's some sort of cookie cutter BS that you're just doing because you're getting paid for it, And a lot of that is just about, well, what attitude do you take toward what you're doing, wherever you're doing it, so there's that. And also in this case, I had done a play a couple of years before, down at the Celebration Theater, I think, down in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
And written by a gay playwright, about a gay playwright who's in Chicago. It's the night of the first real big production of one of his plays, but he's actually from Tennessee. He grew up in Tennessee, and the playwright was a big, strong guy and all. He grew up in Tennessee. His dad was one of these guys that went to church, but he really lived in the woods. And with a little kind of thing right in the beginning of the play, they kind of go to a moment where the dad's saying, there he is. There's a raccoon up in the tree. He's right there, get him now, and the son can't pull the trigger, so time, then the play starts and you realize, and so the dad shows up on the night of this first big production. He shows up, the son isn't even there yet. His roommate is there. He's showed up, he's got Alzheimer's. He has been having experiences where he kind of comes back into focus and he realizes that he has scared the wee out of somebody, maybe even hurt somebody. So he's come to ask his son, who he hasn't talked with in a long time, to watch over him, and when it gets before he does hurt somebody, take him out. That's basically his intent and the mission he's on. They say that people with Alzheimer's wander, but cops that work with finding, works with this great group called Project Lifesaver. They help find people by having a bracelet on them, and they can track people down right away instead of 2 weeks later after spending a lot of money and getting a sad result. And so they don't wander, they're on a mission. So anyway, I did that play for 2 months. I really had a chance to work on those different, mental states, to explore them and stuff. And so my answer to your question, Tina, is just the basic acting work. And in a way, it's all the same. Just like in a way, all the different Christian churches and all the religions, in a way, they're the same. There are different schools of how to approach it. There's the method, and there are different things. You could research that, see what seemed to fit you. It is about believing. So that own part of yourself that, you know, but when you believe in something and carry out your behavior and life that way,
Hmm.
to be there for somebody, you know, or to walk away from somebody, or, you know, well, that's all, you know, it's all kind of connected, you know, and memory and imagination are very just sort of different aspects of the same thing. So I would say, you know, it still comes to what matters to you in life. I really feel your sincerity. And if there's any place that it's always good to find a class or something, you know, as long as the what they're teaching is to explore and look and come out. If somebody, you know, wants to teach you how to act for commercials and stuff,
Hmm.
I think just be yourself would be much better. You both have wonderful, your presentations are so different, you know, but they're both wonderful, you know, and Tina, it's almost like you're singing your words.
Beautiful.
All right. And the Emmy for supporting actor in a drama series goes to
Max Gail, General Hospital.
That was nice.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. I want to just cry my eyes out.
I love how you were all, including myself, all of us were excited in different ways. It's amazing how everybody reacts differently. And as you can see, he's just a real blessing of a man.
Yeah, he is.